Hi, this is Steve Halleck from TikToking, and we're going to do another unboxing and review today. And today we're going to look at another FP Journe Tourbillon. You may have seen my older video with the platinum yellow gold first series early piece, and now here's a new piece. So the first thing you can notice is the box has changed quite a lot over the years. Remember the very small box in the early video? Now we've got a sort of normal size watch industry tourbillon box. This is a really cool outer box. It almost feels like leather. I don't know that it is, but it feels like leather. And let's get it open. Maybe it's a I don't know. I don't think so. Anyway, the box is really pretty. It's this beautiful wood, and also very simple, but it's just got that buckle here, and there's the watch. Underneath, you've got a place for your papers and everything like that, but otherwise, just a really simple box. So let's take a look at the watch. So this one is the dead seconds version, which is the newer version, in platinum with a white gold dial. And what's particularly unique about this watch is that it is a 38mm case. So in the mid-2000s, I don't know the year offhand exactly, Journe switched to rose gold movements for all his pieces, and at the same time discontinued the older Tourbillon remontoir, and instead brought out this version with a dead seconds hand here. The dials changed, there's a couple differences which we'll go over. But at the same time, he went to a 40mm case shape. So it's the same movement and the same size dial, but the 40mm case shape has just a thicker bezel, and he made available as a special order option the ability to still get the 38mm case. But they're very, very, very rare, especially in the tourbillon. You'll see a lot of these with 40mm cases. That's how they were shipped almost everywhere. And this is actually the only one I've ever seen that came up for sale with a 38mm case. So I actually like the 38 a lot more in the Journe watches. And that's because, as I said, the dial is the same size, and the watches were sort of originally designed with a certain proportion, just like you saw in my earlier tourbillon video. And this keeps that same proportion. I like having the very sort of thin, delicate bezel. It actually makes the face seem bigger. To me, it puts more emphasis on the tourbillon itself. And you'll see when I strap the watch on in a bit, it certainly doesn't wear like a small watch. So I don't see a lot of reason to do the 40mm case here. And if you can ever find one of these 38 examples, I think they're really special and really cool. So anyway, let's go over the watch. Again, you have the power reserve, but if you remember in the older piece, the power reserve counted down like that, vertically. This one sweeps horizontally, but it's the same FP Journe thing where it counts hours since it was last wound, rather than how much is in the mainspring. So right now it's about half. Let's wind it up. All right, so now we're fully wound. And you can see these really beautiful blued hands. The hands are a little bit of a different shape than the older piece. You can compare the videos and see for yourself. But they're a little bit different. The subdials are a little bit different, obviously. The older one didn't have quite this symmetry. It had a separate ring here, and then of course the open remontoir here. But otherwise, the movement is basically the same. It's crafted here in rose gold, and has this big cutout here that isn't on the original piece. But you can still see the remontoir there. It's basically the same location, the same thing going on. But as I mentioned in that video, when it's working, it counts off a second at a time. So what they did here was just put a hand on it, and it counts dead seconds. So what dead seconds means is that normally in a mechanical watch, your seconds hand, if you would imagine that the tourbillon is the seconds hand, moves continuously throughout the minute, depending on the beat rate of the movement itself. You know, whether it's moving 5 times a second or 8 times a second or whatever it is. So a dead seconds moves basically like a quartz watch. It just clicks off the seconds. And this one is a fairly direct dead seconds. It doesn't even require like a dead seconds mechanism because you've already got the remontoir, which is clicking off the seconds. So pretty cool, and it's cool to have, and it ticks away, and it makes the watch even more alive. And it's very interesting how it plays with this sort of continuously rotating tourbillon, and then you have the ticking away dead seconds. It's kind of cool interplay of motion. So again, you can see sort of the guilloche of the Subtiles is very, very nice. By this time, the production of these is very sort of standardized. The tolerance is very tight, so you don't see the variances that you see in those early pieces like I was explaining in the other video. These are pretty much the same one to another, which is overall a good thing. And the finishing definitely is nicer on these. It's obviously the movement being in rose gold, and you can just see the quality of the finishing itself is just it's just a step above where it was 15 years ago. Otherwise, the watch is really very, very similar. You can see it on the wrist. This one has a deployant buckle. These are obviously optional. They're fantastically expensive, so I don't know that most people need to opt for that, but this happened to have it when I bought it. So there you can see it on the wrist. I don't think, unless you have huge wrists, you know, there's no reason to die for 2 extra millimeters of case. And I think here you can see, like if I hold it out here, you can see that it's cool that on the 38 version, the case kind of drops away. And you've really just got the focus on the beauty of the piece itself. So I really like it. And you can see, obviously this is platinum, which is just an awesome material. You get that very bright white. The case itself is the same as FP Journe cases have always been, basically. The watch is considerably heavier than the earlier version, and since it's got the same case, one can only assume that that is due to the rose gold movement versus the brass movement, which makes sense. Gold is obviously heavier than brass. So there you have basically all the cool stuff of the FP Journe tourbillon with the dead seconds, which are all the newer versions. Now this is a watch I was just explaining. It's really one of my all-time favorite watches. I've now had 5 different versions of this watch, and it's one that I just keep coming back to. I always miss it when I sell it, and it's just really an awesome watch. And when you think of kind of value for money, it's pretty amazing. I mean, here you have a very respected, sought-after manufacturer making a really amazing tourbillon with a constant force mechanism, and these can be found on the secondary market for a less desirable older version, maybe mid 60s to maybe about 100 grand for a black label or ruthenium version. But even anywhere in that price range, it's a pretty awesome watch for the money compared to what else is out there. And even at full retail, I think the full retail price is around 150K, which for a tourbillon like this is pretty reasonable when you consider that it's from a very good manufacturer. There you have it. I guess the one last cool thing to note is that on these rose gold movemented dead seconds models, you have so much of that rose gold base plate that shows through the tourbillon hole. It really adds a whole different character and dimension to the watch. And I really love that about these newer pieces. I had a black dial one, which is their boutique only black label, and it's really dramatic on that one because you have this rose gold popping up through the black dial. But even on this white dial, obviously, it's one of the defining characteristics of the watch. So there you have it. That is a 38 millimeter FP Journe dead seconds tourbillon, not one you're going to see very often. Thank you very much.